This meeting is being recorded.
We are recording. Over to you, Hari.
Okay, thank you, Jeffrey. A very warm welcome to an exciting audience who have come with eagerness to learn from our 7th series of MIIP. And this platform, actually, just to give you an introduction, this platform we started in 2020 when I was the chapter president, with the sole purpose of collaborative knowledge sharing with respect to major infrastructure and industrial projects. So our MIIP mission is to build a major infrastructure and industrial project community of practice where professionals share their expertise, values, and tools and standards for collaborative and collective learning. And this community of practice actually will form the backbone for the development of best practices and thought leadership, which will be curated by global core team and core team of experts and practitioners and some subject matter experts. And how we program is, how we program the event is basically we come with a theme and spend a lot of time in discussing and set the theme which meets the purpose and get the best practitioners and speakers to come across. And today we have a very engaging, very interesting and very hot topic that many talks going on artificial intelligence, how project management will get benefit, and so what are the pros and cons. A lot of debates going on this topic, and we took a little bit more time to discuss, analyze, and this particular topic is quite wide. So we intend to have 2 sessions. After this, there will be one more session in September, so that we all will learn collectively some ideas from expert speakers. And I believe it will be really beneficial for all of us. And we can see about 400 registration from 200 companies across the globe. That's a great interest among the community here. And I would like to mention that after this initial speaking sessions, we'll have a interactive Q&A panel discussions. So I would strongly urge all of you to participate and ask some queries during the Slido thing so that we can have more interaction. So with this short introduction, I would like to introduce our moderator, Mr. Jugal, and who will introduce himself and take it forward further this session. Over to you, Jugal. Thank you.
Thank you, Hari. Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. It's an absolute honor and a pleasure to be here. And thank you, Hari and Prakash and the PMI MIIP team for inviting and giving me this opportunity to kind of learn and join. And I'm very excited about this. As Hari is sharing, this is more of an exploration session that we aim to do. And it's great to have speakers like Paul, Craig, and Quang sharing their knowledge and expertise in this particular area. So the plan for today is that the first half of the session, there'll be presentations. So I'll give a quick snapshot of the current trends, and then Paul will actually give an in-depth overview on AI and different aspects of AI, and Greg and Quang will share their insight on the applications of AI within the industry and project management and how it links. And before we start, I think it's good to kind of also look at the poll and your responses. So let me share my screen, and here is my screen. Let me know when. Can everyone see my screen? Is the same image?
Yeah. I can see the PMI exploring the power of AI screen. Yeah.
Perfect. So before we dive deep into the presentation, I thought it'll be good to kind of just look at the poll. So good to see a lot of you are PMP professionals, which is fine. Good to see the mix of the industry as well. So a lot of people from IT, construction, consulting. Good to see government officials and people from the government finance, because this topic we believe impacts everyone, not just project management or one function, but all of the other functions. Again, interesting spread of experience as well, which is good. Good to see that majority of you are here just to learn and understand, and which is the exact objective of this. This is, I think it will be a mix, this session from what I see, it will be a mix of inspiration, motivation, some practical application, as well as some in-depth knowledge around AI and stuff, specifically from Paul. So I think we should be good to cover most of these areas. And as Hari mentioned, that we have a poll at the end, right? So the second half of that is going to be a discussion, and you'll be shared with a Slido to share your questions, and we'll then pick up those questions and get into those discussions. Hopefully, we should finish on time in another 1 hour and 15 minutes. So please hang on, and thank you all for joining again. Let me get started. So I won't take too much time. So I am Jugal Makwana. I'm based out of the Netherlands. I have a few things that I do. I am the director for BIM and digital engineering at Royal Haskell DHV, which is a multidisciplinary global engineering consulting firm. I am also one of the board of directors on the board of Building Smart International, which is an open standards body with the whole aim of democratizing data and focus on information management. Now, I am a civil engineer and specifically construction. So I am a certified project manager as well. It's a different thing that I haven't really managed a construction project in a while, but I believe in applications and tooling and implementation of those applications. So I like learning things, and I like learning by doing. And this is one area, AI, and specifically the whole technology trend, whether it is BIM or digital engineering and AI, all of these are quite relevant to our field and connected to everyone that do. So when Hari and we spoke about this and we said, oh, we wanted to do this, then I said, okay, what is a project manager? And when I think of a project manager, this image comes to me in terms of someone who's trying to manage a lot of things. Someone is trying to create a project plan, create a vision for the project, implement a project, do, let's say, risk management, do financial management, stakeholder engagement, all of these things. And many of you are project managers, you'll say, oh, this guy needs few more hands, or this person needs few more hands. And yes, project managers do multitasking, and there are a lot of things that they have to juggle, and a lot of tools, lot of things that come in. They need to communicate and do a lot of things. So a project manager, I think, needs as many hands as you can give him, right? And tools and technologies are kind of those enablers which give us those additional hand. Now, recently, PMI also published a global project management job trend report, which was an interesting read for me in a way, which talked about the skills which are required to advance our career or to deliver a career advantage. And interestingly, it talks about, it doesn't talk about hard skills, but what it talks about is the power skills, which is around communication, problem solving, collaborative leadership, and strategic thinking. And based on that poll, it seems that communication is the biggest among all those four. So these power skills are something which are relevant, or which will be a lot more relevant. So when we started thinking about this webinar, we said, okay, how does this how can AI help and impact or contribute towards these skills? So the question that we will look today is that, can AI really augment these power skills? Not really replace this, but augment in terms of how can it help us as a project manager in achieving or getting better at these power skills. And also, you will see there are lots of tools and applications available, lots of things. So what can we do? What is right for us? What is the relevant tool for us? What is the relevant use case that we can adopt and implement such things? And what are the additional skills that we would require to succeed in our career, not really in adoption of AI, but in our career, in delivering projects which are on time, on budget, and all of these are enablers which are meant to help and support us. Now, before we dive deep into AI and all of those things, I thought probably interesting to share an image where we hear a lot about AI recently, but this is something which is not new. This has been around for several decades now, right? So I'm sure Paul has written lots of books. He can talk a lot more about it. But it started way back in early 1950s, but what we see is recently there has been a lot more investment. So when we talk about, let's say, things like ChatGPT and stuff, these are like just one dot on this entire AI landscape, and there are AI systems which relate to vision or image recognition, games, which there are AI systems for let's say drawing generation, language processing, and all those aspects. And there are lots of dots in here. And interestingly, last week, Gartner came up with a new hype cycle on AI. And what we see is that all those dots are in different phases of those hype cycles. So some of them are more advanced, like computer vision, like let's say in today's time, automated full self-driving is possible because of the progress that computer vision has done. And there are a lot of cloud AI applications which are now in towards the slope of enlightenment. But what we see is generative AI, when they published this in 2022, I think it was still in the innovation trigger, and it has rapidly gone from innovation trigger to a peak of inflated expectations right now. And there would, based on this, would be a trough of delusion at some point of time. But this is a good juncture for also us to kind of explore what it really means for us. And one of the reasons that this happened is because of, let's say, the release of ChatGPT, which from my perspective actually democratized AI or generative AI, made it accessible to people. You subscribe to those features, functionality, and then you're able to see the value or power of it from inherently. And what was also interesting that the adoption of ChatGPT has been the fastest when it comes to tools and technology. So within 5 days, 1 million people started using it. I was not one of the first in 5 days, but I think I was in first 10 days. I joined it and I started exploring it. So there is a significant traction onto this, and we also see this traction actually pushing in a lot of investments into AI and toolings and technology. So you see in last year, once not just because of ChatGPT, but there has been a lot of investment in AI, and that has just accelerated. So when you see 2023 graph, it will be probably much higher number of deals. And what I also understand, so it's not just that these are generic tools, but a lot of these are specific tools, and many of these are also related to EPCM, construction industry, healthcare industry. So a lot of areas are being addressed in these tools, and we should expect that more and more investment is going to be made, not just in number of deals, but also in absolute funding that would be invested in generative AI. And one of the biggest news that have happened in the last 6 months is the Microsoft investment in OpenAI and Meta in their Llama, and they poured billions. And this again would democratize generative AI bring it to our day-to-day applications, right? So we should expect conversational AI kind of things to come into Office and all other tools. So any tool that you pick up today, whether it is Miro or others, they have an aspect of AI which is built into this. And Microsoft, Google, all of those companies are looking into it. One of the other companies which is investing significantly or have invested, and we see the result, is NVIDIA. And I was in another panel with Carlo Ruiz, who's from NVIDIA. He was sharing the investment that NVIDIA has been doing. And they have been investing in not just text generation or image generation, but also code in healthcare, in life sciences, translation. So there are applications of AI in each of those. And it's interesting to see the possibilities that generative AI brings in, wherein now you can create image from text with whatever you think about it, you create it. You think about anything, you can create a video from that. You can create a 3D model by describing what you want. So the process of creating content and information is changing significantly, and the traditional realism boundaries are also being broken because of that. What we see is that the gaming industry is embarking and using a lot of these tools and technology to create virtual environments, and this again is also being now connected to digital twins, wherein people are being able to use generative AI and do a lot of these. So this is just one of those examples. But what we also see is that a lot of these examples are now, a lot of these things are also being integrated within our AEC industry as such. So this is one example from Hyper, where which is an organization or a tool which helps in planning. So they have Hyper AR. You can obviously, there's a presentation which Andrew gave. You can see it on LinkedIn, which is quite interesting, where you prompt what you want and it creates. So it says, okay, I want you to create a 4-story building. And then based on the rules and algorithms that are embedded in there, it creates those 4-story building. Now, those traditional process of creating lines or creating objects and all of that is probably going away sometime sooner. So the way we interact with these tools and technology is likely to change. The way it creates and delivers information to us is likely to change. The way we can extract information from this is also likely to change. So we see, let's say, these generative AI being embedded in technologies in very different ways. And what I've also seen is that when you start exploring this, so I'm sure many of you would have gone through this journey. I've gone through this journey myself as well, where first I was kind of saying, wow, I said it can do a lot of different things. But then you realize, okay, it is something that has been pre-trained with a certain information. So it can only return you the results that it has been pre-trained it. It does not have any expertise from a domain standpoint, practical expertise, and so it's a good, I would say it's a good digital assistant for us to give and provide us with an early starter, and then take it from there. So all of you would need to go through this journey as well, wherein you experiment, you see what it means for it. And what we see is that there is a significant potential for generative AI in different use cases within our industry as well. So even, let's say, for EPCM or AEC or healthcare or any such project, you can actually, you'll see marketing firms are adopting generative AI the earliest. So you see a lot of tie-ups happening in there. There's a significant startups like Blizzy and few others where they are embedding sales. So there's tender management, sales management. A lot of those tools are there. Engineering optimization. There are a lot of consultancy. So a lot of these use cases are being embedded. But now coming back to the power skills that we discussed. So what we see is that generative AI and AI in general will can play a role in augmenting those power skills, wherein it can help us in communication, not just drafting it, but kind of creating communication which is easily understandable to the audience that we are communicating. It can help problem solving, and I think Quang is going to share how Octant AI is doing some of that. It can also help in collaborative leadership, wherein we can actually use algorithms around resource management. And I think a lot of those interesting use cases is something which Greg is going to share. And then strategic thinking, brainstorming, a lot of those things can be done where we can actually now truly use the data that we create and use AI to connect all those dots and enable that data-driven decision making, where I'm really looking forward to a day when we as an industry move away from drawings and start using data in our day-to-day life. And probably we won't need, let's say, charts and graphs as well in future. But there is a significant potential that we see. And the question then for us is not what, but it's how. How can we use AI to augment our skills, and how can we how can AI help us in our daily work, whether it is, let's say, replying to emails or creating a project plan or creating a communication, and then how can we learn? Like, how can I learn? How is it going to benefit? What are the relevant use cases for me? And this is something that all of you will need to explore for yourself and see how it best suits you, and then also need to look at how can you acquire the skills that you need for making the most of this. It's not just a technology trend, I would say, but it's a significant shift in the way we do things. So let's say one of the earliest shifts that we did 40, 50 years ago, where we moved from hand-drawn drawings to CAD-based drawings. And this, in a way, I think is equally big, wherein it provides us with an opportunity to look at data, look at information differently. So this was just a high-level overview, a snapshot from me. I'm really looking forward to hearing from Paul, Craig, and Quang. So thank you. I would now hand over to Paul to start with his presentation. Paul?
Yes, I am here.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks very much. That was an excellent overview. Great to see all that information. Let's see if you can see my slides. There, are my slides up there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can see it, Paul.
Right, good. So thanks, everyone. Good evening. Very pleased to be here to be part of this program, PMI Singapore. First thing I have to do is I have to congratulate every one of you for joining this this session, because it shows that you care about project success. It shows that you're interested, and it's good that we're trying to make an improvement to project management and the way we manage projects, the way we have that success. So after we've had that high level view, which was excellent, I'm going to talk about the fundamentals. I'm going to get down to the fundamentals of AI. So really, what is it and how can we apply it? And also get into the methodology of project management. I don't want to talk about how AI is going to affect Netflix or Google or Amazon, because they're already using it. But I want to talk about the way we create and manage projects. That's what I'm going to talk about in this session. So as was mentioned, we're moving away. We're moving away from this process-based adherence. It's what I call it. And what that means is you've been told, people have been told, if you follow this process in project management, you're going to be successful. And the answer is no, because we know that 30 to 40% of projects are not successful. They don't deliver the scope, the schedule, or within the budget. And we know that 11% of all effort on a project is wasted through some way, misallocation of resources, poor development of the scope statement, whatever it might be. So
Hey,
we're
Paul,
moving.
sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, are you sharing your slide as a presentation? Because we see a slide, but it's not moving.
It's not moving.
Yeah, we
It's not
see. Yeah, if you can share the presentation slide, that would be perfect.
Okay, tell me what you see.
It's we see a slide, but it's not a slideshow mode. Can you run it in a slideshow mode?
I am running in a slideshow mode.
We see a presentation. We don't see your
Yeah,
slideshow.
I think Paul, you need to press the bottom bar. You can see, you can put your cursor. You can see, yeah, just at the bottom. Yeah, can you press it?
I think on the other screen, you need to change which one is the screen that presents.
Yeah.
Well, I can see
whiteboard.
the blue diagram.
Whiteboard.
Yeah, next
Can
to
you
the,
see it?
yeah,
Can you
next
see
to
the
Zoom.
agenda? Can you see
Next to
the
the
agenda?
Zoom.
Yes, I can see agenda.
Okay, you can see the second slide?
Okay, yes. Can.
Okay.
Okay, yes.
Okay,
Can flag.
I'll present it like this because the other
Okay.
the slide isn't working. Okay.
Okay.
So
No
we're moving
worries.
away. Sorry, go ahead. We're moving away from this process-based adherence to a data-driven model. And as was mentioned earlier, we want to use AI to make decisions. And here's the current problem. Hopefully you can see this problem slide. The current problem is our processes are out of date. Our project management methodology is out of date. The risk management processes that you use right now are probability and impact. That's how you calculate risk. What's the probability? What's the impact? That was developed in the 1980s. And I don't think you use a phone that looks like this anymore. The critical path concept was developed for the space program in the United States in the 1960s. And yes, we have that red line on MS Project, but what does it really tell us and what does it really mean anymore? There's a lot more data and a lot more information that we should be using. So we need to modernize project management. And I believe the way we can modernize project management is by using AI. So what is AI? At its core, at the center of AI is software code. And I use a programming language called Python, which is the most popular. It can be coded in C++, Java, a number of different programming languages. The logic for AI is based on calculus equations. It's regression analysis. It takes the data, performs regression analysis, and creates a model. We talk about AI being a learning tool. It learns by creating a data model, and it uses that model as a reference to make decisions and forecast probabilities. And I'll be explaining that a bit more later on. The main learning mechanisms are supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning, which I will explain in detail. Supervised learning has labels in the data sets, unsupervised learning has no labels, and reinforcement learning is by trial and error. So now, when we say, what is AI? We have this picture on the left, which is not AI. And when I do this presentation in the United States, everybody laughs and starts shouting and cheering. I have to talk about this. There's this scenario I call the Hollywood myth. And Hollywood myth says that one day robots will become alive and decide to take over the world. That's not AI. That's called entertainment. And there are a lot of creative people, very creative people with creative minds who write anything they want. That's not really AI. This is AI on the right-hand side. AI is based on math and statistics. And my favorite expression is AI is based on math, not myth. And that's my expression. You feel free to use that whenever you're talking to anybody. You can go ahead and watch those movies and shows, but even the highest level academics say that AI will not become sentient. It's not possible. Are there dangers? Absolutely, there are dangers with AI. Right now, we're going to talk about how we apply this to project management. So in project management, there are two components that I believe are the most significant to be used in projects. The first one is machine learning. Machine learning is a computer program that learns by building models. And natural language processing, software turns text, it turns your words and text into data and performs analysis on it. And I'll explain how these work. So first of all, supervised learning. Supervised learning, you take labeled data sets. So you have an image of a cat, you label it a cat. You have an image of a dog, you label it a dog. And you feed the algorithm images of a cat, they're all labeled a cat, images of a dog, maybe 10,000, 100,000 images of a dog. The model builds a representation. The software understands what a cat is supposed to look like and a dog is supposed to look like. Then you feed it a new image. Maybe it's a blurry image. Maybe it's a breed that's never been seen before. And it was the year 2005 that a computer was more accurate than a human at determining the correct answer. Okay? Supervised learning with labeled data sets. So how do we use this in project management? Well, I created a software program based on a neural network. So it's a 3-layer neural network. And I collected 87 factors from a survey that my students took on project managers. I don't know if you were involved in it or not. We did a global survey for project managers. What are critical factors in project success? And then they went out and they collected a bunch of completed projects. So they had several projects that were finished, and they took all the characteristics and they entered them into this program. And it built a model. It built a model of saying these projects were successful, these projects were not successful. So now what we do is we take a brand new project that's about to start. Based on the documentation, you run it through this model, and it will give you a probability of success. It's like taking the image of a project. What is the image of this project? Does it look like a successful image or not a successful image? And if the tool comes back and says you have a 95% probability of success, it looks pretty good. If the tool comes back and says you have a 65% probability of success, then compared to other projects, there's something that you're not doing properly. Now, how do you use this? I have a client in Europe, and they want to use this to look at projects as they're progressing. They want to set this up as a criteria. I have 100 projects in the organizations. Which ones are most likely to be successful and which ones are most likely to fail? And I want to help the ones that are going to be successful. I want to prioritize those. And the ones that are going to fail, if they're not providing me value, I'm going to discontinue those projects. Okay. You can also do this as the project is being executed. And the way I think of this, we have another template for that. The way I think of this is working with a project manager. So pretend you're in a video game. Video game is called, I don't know, the project manager video game. And you have a long hallway in front of you. You're executing your project is progressing. You turn to a door to the right and you put your hand on that doorknob. You run the predictor tool. It says, if you open this door, you will have a 65% probability of success. Whoa, don't go there. Don't do that. You step back, take 3 steps down the hall, put your hand on a door to the left. Run the prediction tool. It says, if you open this door, you're going to have a 95% probability of success. So what's happening here? We now have a tool that's helping and supporting a project manager make good decisions based on data as the project is being executed. It's an amazing opportunity for us in project management to use data. Now, supervised learning does require a bit more data. In the medical field, they use lots of data. In the healthcare field, they use lots of data. In business, there's research that suggests you only need 50 data sets. Now, I think it's a bit more than 50, but you can be successful with a smaller number of data sets. So people who tell you, oh, you need big data or AI doesn't work, that's false. That's misinformation. That's poor communication. That's poor understanding of AI. All right. A second thing I want to talk about is unsupervised learning. And unsupervised learning is a great example where you don't need massive amounts of data. With unsupervised learning, there's no labels. But based on the characteristics, you can classify these items. So, for example, fruit is a typical study that people do when they're learning algorithms. Based on the color, the size, the weight, you can group these items into various groups. It's called clustering or classification. There's no labels, but based on the internal characteristics, you can put them into groups. So how do we use this? What can we classify in project management? Well, the first thing I've done is I've done task complexity, and I have this algorithm on my laptop right now. So I take all of the tasks in a project, maybe 200 tasks, and I look at the characteristics of each of those tasks. And the algorithm puts them into groups. Now, what happens is maybe you've got 80% of the tasks on your project are considered high complexity. What do you do? Well, as a project manager, I'm concerned. If 80% of my tasks are classified as high complexity, I go back and look at my resources. Do my resources have the skills and ability to manage those tasks? Do I need to add more training? Do I need to add coaching or a mentor so that my resources can successfully accomplish the level of complexity in those tasks? The other thing we can classify, which I've done, is risks. Let's take all the risks on a project and run a classification algorithm. And in that classification algorithm, now you have different groups of risks. What do you do with it? Again, what I look at is I have a specific group of risks. Maybe there's a common cause. Or maybe for a specific group of risks, maybe there's an optimal mitigation strategy for those risks that will apply and eliminate most of those risks. So now we're starting to have these tools that a project manager can collaborate with to make the project more successful. And the third one is reinforcement learning. And reinforcement learning, yes, learning to ride a bicycle, learning to swim. Once you do it, it's great. You learn by trial and error, okay? And use self-correction. So it's about the feedback. You get feedback when you make a mistake or you make a bad decision. The feedback is try not to make this decision again. And I have this little slogan down the bottom. Imagine if humans never made the same mistake twice. Yeah, wow, that's not going to happen. But just imagine if it was possible. And what I tell my students, to take advantage of this, become your own AI tool and build a knowledge repository. This is how it works. You're working on a project. Maybe it's the first project after you've graduated, or the first project. And what happens is there's an issues and status meeting, problems and issues. So you capture this data on an Excel spreadsheet. What is the issue? What are the characteristics of this project? What are the characteristics of the issue? And what are the project conditions? Now, what decision is taken? Oh, we need to review the scope. We need to do this. So what action or decision was decided for that issue? And then was it successful or not? That last part is where we fail to capture enough data. Was that decision, did it work? Now, you start capturing this data on the first project, and then your next project, and then your next project. And pretty soon, maybe you've worked on 5 projects or 10 projects, and you have your own knowledge repository. And if the same issue comes up again, you look through and say, well, wait a minute, we had this issue, 5 projects ago, and here's what we did, and it didn't work. Why are we trying to do that again? In the human world, we call this project manager experience. Imagine Imagine if project managers captured this kind of reinforcement learning data repository for every project they've worked on, maybe 5 projects a year for 20 years, and maybe 20 project managers. That is an extremely valuable knowledge repository, and AI can go through and help you not make the same mistake twice. Now you might say, well, Paul, what about the experience of project managers? And I have valued the experience of project managers, but here's the problem. Human memory is fallible. Our memories are not that great. I can ask each and every one of you, what did you have for lunch 3 weeks ago on Tuesday? You have no idea. You can't remember that. What about the Friday? What did you have on the Friday? I don't know. And a lot of people don't even remember what they had 2 days ago. So human memory is not set up to remember all of this. If we capture it in a repository, capture it in a database using reinforcement learning, we get to the possibility, imagine if project managers never made the same mistake twice. Okay? So that is machine learning. We have a lot of possibilities with machine learning. The second part is natural language processing. Natural language processing, a lot of capability here. I'm going to go through these. So document analysis, it looks at your project documents. Sentiment analysis can analyze how your team is feeling, and the virtual assistant, I'll talk about that. So the first one is document analysis. There are AI tools out there now, and I have a couple that I'm working with in the government to review the scope statements. You can have a scope document that's 230 pages. How long do you think it takes a project manager to review that? An AI tool can probably review it in 2 hours, and it will tell you all of the errors and omissions and mistakes and inconsistencies in that scope document. And I call this honesty in documentation because as a project manager, listen, you know what happens, right? They want your customers want a shovel in the ground. They don't want, look, as project managers, we're supposed to spend time planning. That's really important to get the planning part right before you start the project. But there's a lot of pressure on project managers. Where are the results? Why haven't you started? Isn't that task being done? Get shovels in the ground. I want to see some progress so I can show people we're actually doing this project. So now instead of taking a week to review a scope document to make sure it's accurate, you can use an AI tool and get it done in a couple of hours. Okay? It's honesty in documentation. It will be correct. You don't want to start a project that's not correct. And there's research from Oxford University that says if you can start a project and within the first few months you're on budget and on time, then you are far less likely to have that project turn into a disaster. Okay? And part of that first part of the project being successful is having a good scope document. I'm skipping into the virtual assistant now. So the virtual assistant is interactive communication with, oh, you know them, Siri, Alexa. Can I just stop sharing this for a minute? Where am I here? Okay, let me just see if I don't know if this is going to work. Never try technology live because it tends to disappoint you, but we'll try it. Alexa, there are 3 tasks this week. Can I move them to next week?
The tasks scheduled for this week are not on the critical path. However, one of the tasks has an identified risk based on the risk register. Should I contact the risk owner and ask her to contact you?
So there you see an example of a virtual assistant that's helping me as a project manager make good decisions. Not only did Alexa talk about, yes, you can go ahead and move these things that aren't on the critical path, but also, hey, wait a minute, there's a few other things. So the virtual assistant is looking at the big picture, the integrated picture of a project. And this provides something called ubiquitous project management. Ubiquitous means you can manage a project anywhere at any time. Now, I don't think we're there yet. Some of these tools are just starting. Microsoft Project has an interface where they say it's a virtual assistant, but all it does is you just talk into Microsoft Project and say, start a new task, and it will enter a new task in Microsoft Project. That's not what I want to see. I want to see a virtual assistant that really talks about how your project can perform well. All right, so this is the way it works. We need to understand some of these fundamentals because I don't want people going away thinking this is magic. This isn't magic, okay? There's software behind it. So what you say is called an utterance. And as humans, we are very inconsistent. We say, you know, what's it like out today? What's the weather? Is it going to rain today? What's the temperature? All those things mean the same thing. It's an intent. We want to find a weather report for today. So we give an utterance that is a variation of a number of different things, and the software goes back and says, well, what do they really mean? What does that human mean? What's the intent? And in projects, we go through and we have some intent documents. So organization policies and procedures, vocabulary, all this stuff. And then it analyzes. Okay, I've got the intent. I know what they want. Let's do some analysis behind it. Okay, so here's what it is. Yes, you can move those things, but look, there's a risk issue here. We create a response. We respond to that utterance. And as Alexa told me, here's your answer. And then it goes back and say, oh, do I have to make any updates in the documents? So this gets into the big one of the day, ChatGPT, large language models. And can I just take a minute? And I don't want to do this, but I'll disagree with Jugal for a minute. I saw that graph where there's a hype cycle and then it goes down. I think with the large language models, it's a straight line. I think it's an incline, and it starts low and it goes up and it's never going to come down, not for quite a while anyway. It may level off, but technology is evolving very quickly. And first we started with something called a bag of words. A bag of words means you look at a document or you look at what somebody said in an email and you count the number of specific words. The word happy came up 12 times. The word frustrated came up once. The sentiment is that person is pleased. Maybe they're happy with their job. They're enjoying it. The word frustrated, uncertain comes up more frequently. Maybe my communication plan as a project manager is not working well. It evolved to parts of speech. There's a module in Python that identifies parts of speech. What's a noun? What's a verb? What's an adjective? And this was very important for translation services because depending on where an adjective or an adverb is, it changes the meaning of that sentence, that phrase. Next, we had recurrent neural networks, which allow you to go over a sentence more than once and retain parts of that phrase so you can understand what it means and really focus in on the intent. And now recently we moved to transformers. That's what the PT, generative pre-trained transformer. So the transformer does parallel processing, and it looks at key words. It's called self-attention, and it identifies what are the key words in this phrase or sentence. So we have the software technology, but now what's happened is we've combined that with a database, a corpora or a corpus from the Latin meaning body. It's a body of work. And what ChatGPT does is it uses the software technology, looks at the body of work, and does things like intelligent document extraction, key information, and generates a summary. Now, ChatGPT, the way it's set up now, it looks at the general world. That's not the way to use it in project management. Do not use ChatGPT in a general world. I mean, you can, right? But you know there's going to be issues with it. The organizations that I'm working with are taking the ChatGPT engine and they're putting it inside their organization and pointing the large language model to their organization's documents. So think about this. Now, there's a bit of work to do. I have it set up on my laptop here in my office. So I have a ChatGPT engine. And what I'm doing is I'm loading all the projects that I have, all the project history. So now imagine this, your organization has policies and procedures. your organization has a project history of, I don't know, 200 projects. Now you can focus ChatGPT on it and ask questions. That's how to use ChatGPT, not off the internet. Okay, use it in your own organization. And I've worked with organizations, again, I've seen organizations that are doing that now, very, very successful. Intelligent document search, compiling reports, reports that used to take 28 days in one organization I work with. It's a health organization. From 28 days, it takes 2 hours. So yes, there's a bit of a time saving there. So it brings us back to the importance of data. We have these project documents, project status, project conditions, environment. And when I talk to people, I say, first of all, how much project data do you keep? And at least 50% say, well, we keep everything forever. And most of them say at least 7 to 10 years. And when I ask them, well, what are you doing with it? Silence. What do you mean? Well, you've got all of that project data. It's gold. It's gold. That's what AI does. It uses data. So if you've got all of your project data, dig for it, right? Do some data mining, do some predictive analytics. Okay. And there's no issue of being able to find a way. You do need structured data, but there are tools that you can put that into a data lake or a data repository and interface to any of the tools that you've been using for your project data. Now let's get this. I'm almost finished here. Applying AI in the construction industry. We have a couple of amazing speakers coming after me. Greg's going to talk with nodes and links, I think it is. And I know Quang's tool with Octant, amazing capability. And they're going to talk about some of the use cases in these. I'm going to talk about them a little bit generically. So with a scope statement, ensure your scope document is accurate and your deliverables are clear. Schedule. Accurate schedule, and Quang is going to talk about this signal that you can get. Again, with the budget resource allocation, there's an organization in Europe now. They're using it for the defense industry, 4,000 resources across multiple projects. And they're using AI to optimize the resource allocation for those resources across the projects. This is not some future it's going to happen to project management. It's happening now. And this is why I think it was so important for you people to be part of this. Procurement, you can match the best contractor to requirements if you're doing contractor selection, vendor selection. Something like taking a resume. What happens now is AI takes a resume and matches it to a job. Why aren't we doing that to contractors? Risks. Hopefully our speakers will talk about risk. Project issues, reinforcement learning. My students that I'm teaching are out there. If you hire any of my students in the background, if they're on a project, they're going to be creating a repository that they're going to be able to run AI tools on. Okay, so resource allocation. Oh, there, I talked about that already. Project communication, stakeholder management. So I'm going to finish off here. What do project managers need to know? So what do you need to know in your career? I'm going to say, first of all, is you have to know how to manage data. And when I say you have to know how to manage data, I'm talking about we have project data. What is this data field that we're looking at? Are there 4 data fields that mean the same thing? Is this one? Can we take an average of the data fields? Is this categorical data? And how do we turn categorical data, high, medium, and low, into binary data, if that's what has to be done? And listen, guys, there are data scientists who get paid a lot of money to go through data and manage it. First of all, your organization probably can't afford them, even if they could find them, because it's a scarce resource. But data scientists and even IT people, the information technology people, they're not going to be able to manage your data for you because they don't know project management language. They don't know what earned value management means. They don't know what a critical path is. So I think if project managers increase their knowledge of how to manage data, they're going to be extremely valuable to their organization. Second thing is how to interpret and act on results. And this is to improve your knowledge of statistics. You do not have to have a degree in statistics. You do not have to know how to do logistic regression. but you have to be able to interpret the results. So what is an outlier, right? What's a normal distribution? Just get into some basic statistics, and because that's what AI produces. It's based on regression analysis and statistics. I think you have to understand project interactions. So what happens in my project? If I do one thing, is something else going to mess up? If I change my resource allocation because I want to save money, is it going to impact my risks or my budget? So as a project manager, we are responsible for that high level perspective. And I think we have to be very aware of that. And lastly, how is AI going to provide value to your organization? There is no doubt that this new technology is going to give us value, at least in delivering projects on budget and on time. Okay. So takeaways, I think organizations need to capitalize on the value. Digital transformation and data, yes, is a foundation for success. The other thing project managers need to do, I didn't include this previously because you should be doing it already, and that is change management. Help the organization understand that we need to use new technology. Help the project team understand that our project methodology needs to change. So throughout this, I say it's your opportunity to lead this change. I'm not talking about the project team doing tasks differently. I'm talking about the project methodology, how you create a scope statement, how you make sure the scope statement is accurate, how you identify and manage risks. Okay, all those things, that's the project methodology. We need a better methodology. All right, so that's it for me. I've got my contact information. I'm sure somebody's going to post these somewhere. Feel free to contact me. Be happy to connect with you. I'm on LinkedIn, so you can connect with me on LinkedIn as well. Happy to do that. All right. Thank you. Thanks very much, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Good job. Look, yeah, thank you for this comprehensive insight on AI, and it's quite the use cases that you talk about. Yeah, I completely agree. Interesting comment on the hype cycle. I think I agree with you. It's going to go up, but yeah, there is in terms of there is an inflation of expectations, right? So that has to be balanced in terms of what it can really deliver. But thank you for sharing this insight. Very valuable.
I agree. Yeah, so I agree with you, Jugal. I think there's a hype cycle just because it's out there. But yeah. I think in terms of the hype, we have to get past that in project management and really focus on the value. So yeah, I don't disagree. I just like to throw in a different perspective.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, again, for all those who are here, thank you for joining in. And Gregory did share the link to Slido. So please feel free to ask your questions and we'll take all those questions at the end. Now, let's move on to Greg. Greg is here. He is from Lincoln Nodes. And if I know correctly, you're based in UK, right? So I leave it to Greg to introduce what about him and what he does and share his presentation. Greg, go ahead, please.
A pleasure. And today I'm actually calling in from Switzerland. So if I was to turn my camera that way, you'd see a bunch of mountains. But thank you everyone for joining us. I'm going to speak for about 20 minutes. I'll tell you who I am, etc., etc. But I want to try and make you a promise. I want to promise two things. One, that you're going to learn something. And two, that I'm going to be entertaining. I'd like you to hold me to account on that at the end of this and tell me if I have been entertaining and you have learned something. Are you all okay doing that for me? Wonderful, I see some nods. So let's dive into some interesting stuff. Here we go. So I'm from a company called Nodes and Links, and we exist to do one thing, to make AI in project controls a reality. This is me. I'm actually an astrophysicist turned project manager, turned project controller, turned venture capitalist, and a technology developer. I used to work on submarines. That's where I learned project management. We're all about AI-powered project controls. And when I speak to my teams, I say, there's only two things that we need to achieve. And relating to the last conversation that you had about making it realistic, we need to save people time, and we need to make doing advanced analysis really easy. And the benchmark that I set my teams, before we get onto delays and claims, before we get onto risk, before we get onto forecasting, before any of that, we must save each person 10 hours using AI before we even start. We sit on top of the systems that exist today. So P6, Microsoft Project, as to Power Project, and the AI works those systems to deliver answers and results. And it does a lot of stuff. The biggest thing it does is you can actually tell it to go and do analysis for you. So some of the large language models we were just discussing before. And we work with people all over the world, 23 countries, clients, contractors, and consultants, all the biggest ones in the world. So now we've got the general stuff about who is this guy and why should I listen to him out of the way. Let's get onto the interesting thing. What is AI-powered project controls? Like, what is it tangibly in real life? Well, to explain that, I'm going to tell you a story. And it is a story of project management, or specifically project controls. So back when I started learning project controls, this is what it looked like. I'm oversimplifying here, but you get the gist. There were schedulers, cost, risk, change, controls. They pull everything together into monthly reports, give it to leadership, give it to the project managers, people would talk, actions would be formed, and then we'd go through the cycle all over again. Does that look familiar to people? Beautiful, I'm seeing some nods. Now things have changed. So I talk with hundreds of heads of project controls and VPs of projects around the world, and they've added a role. They've added a data scientist. What this means in actuality is they're using their data better. They've got their data in databases, they're starting to analyze it, and the first use case normally is create a nice dashboard of some sort to tell me some form of information. But this is not where project controls is going to end up. The prediction at the heart of nodes and links is that project controls is going to end up here, where every single individual has their own bespoke piece of artificial intelligence working for them. And I'm going to come on to why that is going to be the future and why that's absolutely inevitable. Now, I'm not the only one saying this, and this call is not the only one saying this. There's a plethora of reports and evidence. This is from the London School of Economics. There's Harvard Business Review as well. There's the Association of Project Managers. Long story short, project management is one of the professions that is the most exposed to change from artificial intelligence. And that's because project management at its heart is a thinking activity, as opposed to a muscle activity. You're not carrying concrete across a construction yard. You're thinking about how things should be done. And thinking is what AI does. So a number of years ago, about half a decade ago, I set out and told my team, there's one thing that we must achieve. We must create the AI system that works with people, or even better, for people, to deliver the world's projects. And there's a lot of core beliefs and morals that sit behind this, which I'll come on to. So let's attack the elephant in the room. What is AI for project controls? Now you've heard what is AI. What I'm going to talk about is what is it for project controls specifically. And you can expand this to project management. And to tell this, I'm going to tell another story, which is the story of technology since the dawn of humanity. Okay. I'm going to ask a question. And I'm not going to move on until I've got 3 responses in the chat. How is a phishing net and artificial intelligence the same thing? I'm looking at the chat now. Please feel free to drop your comments in there. How is a phishing net and artificial intelligence the same thing? We've got one that says the interconnectivity. A good one there. They all mesh up. They're both technologies. Okay. That's a really good one. They catching, they're connected, right? Hold on to those, and especially the both technology part. Every single technology that humanity has ever developed can be described by a contrarian statement. So imagine we're back in ancient Egypt 5,000 years ago building the pyramids. I say to you, it's very difficult to remember everything. I try to draw shapes in the sand, but the wind blows it away. And I say to you, what if you didn't have to remember everything? What if people 100 kilometers away could know what you're thinking? And even better, people 5,000 years in the future would know what you thought. What are you talking about? Paper. That's paper. We fast forward to more recent times. What if we could communicate instantly across 6,000 miles of distance and different time zones? I can talk from Switzerland to you in Asia. The internet. The most recent one, what if I didn't have to do all the thinking? That's artificial intelligence. All of these are a progression of automation, or more specifically, all of these are about scaling the productivity of humanity. I can catch more fish in an hour with a fishing net than you can with your hands. With an engine in a car, I can travel further and with heavier loads than you can carrying things on your back. With AI, I can produce more thought work in an hour than you can with a pen or a keyboard. It is as simple as that. So the thing that connects all technology together is productivity. So with the fishing net and the artificial intelligence, both of them are technologies that scale productivity of humans. It's just that the fishing net scales muscle. AI scales mind. Are you with me so far? Beautiful. So what's the impact? The impact of any technology can be described by these four things. On one axis, you've got people. More, the same, less. On the other axis, you've got work. More or better, the same or less. We can have the same people do better work. This is precision medicine. We can have the same people do more work. This is logistics and lorry drivers. We can have more people with less expertise. This is Uber and Airbnb. You don't have to have a hotel qualification and you don't have to have a taxi driver's qualification. You download an app and Google Maps tells you where to go. Or you can have less people with the same amount of work. That's farming. 500 years ago, about 95% of the world's population farmed. Today, it's about 10%. Why? Because we developed the engine and we developed pesticides. All of this is underlined by unit economics. And why is it absolutely inevitable in project management that AI will come in here? Money. These are the average wages of schedulers in the UK and Australia. If I can get more work as an organization out of someone for a slight increase in their salary, I'm absolutely going to do that because I'm going to earn more money from that person. If I can, in doing that, win more work and become more profitable, I'm going to do that. It's not that AI is some revolutionary technology, but why it's going to disrupt project management, and it is disrupting project management, it's because people can earn more money. That's why it's here. And I'll just put a perspective on that. So we deploy our platform. I said on average, we aim to do 10 hours. Typically, it's about 22 per person. In America, at around $125 per hour, that's worth $2,750. The most expensive piece of AI we sell the absolute premium service is $500. Numbers don't lie. So, okay, wow, AI is here. How do we actually think about designing it in project management? And this is where I hear a lot of people say, I'm worried about my job. Don't be. And I'll explain why here. Every single job in the human civilization is comprised of responsibilities. Even the job of a mother or a father, it is a set of responsibilities. In the working world, responsibilities are broken down into workflows, and workflows are comprised of tasks. This shouldn't be new to anyone. I'll give you an example. You are responsible for project reporting. Okay, well, my workflow is get data, process data, create report, send out report, hold review. That's the workflow. The tasks are the individual elements. AI is a piece of automation technology that works at a task level. It can auto-generate a report. It can auto-collect data. These kinds of things. Humans are required to stitch workflows together, at least to tell it what to do. And humans are best placed to do human activities. So can an AI create a project report? Yes, it can actually quite easily. Can an AI stand up in front of a meeting and present that project report to its peers? Not yet, because humans want to hear from humans. And I'll give you an exact example here about a risk analysis. So this is actually one of the big changes we've made in Europe around something called quantitative schedule risk analysis. It's where you take the schedule and you simulate what could happen in order to understand when the project will finish and how much risk you're holding. This is the current best practice process as defined in the project management documentation. You take your schedule, you assign uncertainty and risk, which are the variables, you run a Monte Carlo simulation, you then get the results, you send the results off to your project managers and your commercial to decide what they're going to do commercially, and you also send the results to the risk team, who then go and try and mitigate risk. You then rerun this analysis in a period of time, normally 12 months. This is a very labor-intensive process, at least 50 hours of work. That's what it looks like now. We can have AI learn from past projects with machine learning to suggest uncertainty and distributions and risk events. We can have automated report generation to just automate all of the writing of the reports and the analysis. People still go and decide what to do commercially and still go and decide what to do with regards to risk actions in the project plan. And because this level of work takes 3 hours compared to 50, they can do it for every single change, which means that they can be proactive with regards to disruption, claims, and litigation. They can stay out of court. One of the big companies that we're working with on this is ACOM. So ACOM have brought AI into their risk practice globally, and they're now deploying AI as part of this process to the benefit of their clients around the world. With me so far? Wonderful. This is what it looks like, by the way. This is what active machine learning looks like. So this is, again, this is a full schedule. I've selected this activity. It's got a duration of 20 days. This is the performance of all similar activities in the past. The P50 position is 22 days. The AI is saying that this should be a 22-day activity, not a 20-day. And it says that if you're going to run a simulation, you should have it as quick as 16 days and as fast and as long as 31. Those are the suggestions. But AI is not in charge. With one click of a button, you can tell it to shut up and override it. And that is because AI is just an automation technology and it works for people. And people need to be in the kill chain. they need to be in the decision-making process, because no CEO is going to turn around and go, well, I blame the AI, so don't worry about it, guys. They're going to turn around and go, you're the experts, you shouldn't have used a hammer. So that's the switch here. Some use cases that you can read in your own time. A lot of time saved, a lot faster. That's generally the whole process with automation. It's not that surprising. Now, if you remember before, I said that we have to have some very strong beliefs and morals when it comes to AI. And actually, I've got 4 of them that I impose on all the build of our technology. Number 1, you have to be secure. This isn't really that surprising. You can't just release company confidential data to the world. It has to be multi-factor authenticated. It has to pass the rigorous InfoSec requirements of enterprise organizations. Number 2, data ownership. You own your data. This is not some kind of perverse Facebook or Google situation where every piece of data you provide them is theirs. No, it is company data. And that can't be transferred to the developers of AI, which means that all AI models are private. So when we deploy an AI model, for example, in ACOM, the data they feed into it stays in that organization. It does not get fed back to the main model to learn. This means that companies can keep their competitive advantage. It continues to learn, but within that context. And that means there's only 2 fates of that AI model. Either it lives forever in that organization, or at some point you kill it. And you kill it by pressing a delete button. It's that simple. And the 4th is what we discussed before. AI should work at a task level. Humans must make the decision. It can pull together workflows, but there always needs to be a human at the end of the process to make a call on the work that it's produced. And I'll give you an example of this in a couple of slides. So, what kind of new things are coming out right now? Well, we've already got machine learning. We've already got natural language processing for things like sustainability, carbon, forecasting, risk analysis, all of this. What's coming out right now? Well, this is actually something that we're literally just about to release, which is auto report generation using private large language models. So I've got an S-curve here. I've clicked a button that says, I'd like a report, please. And I'm saying, I want you to write me a report on how many weeks behind is the current update compared to the baseline. It will go away and a GPT model will write that and then give it to me to amend the text. It's as simple as that. And my dream when I was working back in projects was that I could literally take a data set like the schedule, give it to a computer, and it knew all of the reports that I've written in the past, and it would just automatically generate me every single report I needed to do against that data set and prepare them to send to all the major stakeholders. So all I had to do was check the text, tick it, and it's gone. And I'm home by 2 o'clock on a Friday. I'm not waiting until 7 p.m. writing all my reports. That is a total waste of my time. I am far too valuable to be sitting there until 7 p.m. on a Friday. Personal opinion. That's why we built that. The second is this, which is, what if we had a butler? What if we had an AI that worked for me? That is this. Oh, give me a second. Play the video. There we go. There we go. So this is us telling a GPT model, here's a schedule. Could you please tell me how my project has changed? And it knows to do a change analysis. It knows it needs to look at end dates, critical paths, activities, and milestones. It's just a baby right now. It doesn't know everything, but it's the fact that it knows that when you ask it how things have changed, to go and look and do those analysis. Very soon, we'll be able to say things like, I would like you to go and do me a change report, please. And it will know that a change report means that I need to analyze scope change. I then need to analyze how the key dates have changed. I need to understand how the past to these key dates have changed. I need to rerun a risk analysis to see how my probability distributions have changed. And I need to rerun the risk drivers so I know if the risk actions that I've authorized are still within business case parameters. And it will just write that entire report for us. That is a very highly skilled person spending about 3 days on that. And we can do it in about 10 seconds. Now, what you do with that report, that's where AI can't help. You need to then go, right, well, are we accepting this change? Do I go and argue a different commercial position? Do I want a delay and disruption claim? Etc., etc. Oh. Okay, we're pretty much at the end now, but I'm going to leave you with a bonus. And this is what companies like Acom are actually using this technology for. And I've taken snapshots of chats that we've had with them that they've permitted me to share. This is their new service offerings. AI-driven risk made human. So you still get all of the expertise of all of the people that they've trained, but they have new technology to give you the most triangulated answer that they possibly can. You get access to the best technology, but controlled by the most educated people. Proactive delay in claims analysis. They will come in and every single month check that you're not liable for a delay or a claim. Then, if they find something, they'll tell you how to fix it. The third, on-demand change analysis. If I get a change, I can turn around a full change analysis within 10 minutes. So I can tell people what the impact of the plan is going to be before they've even finished their sentence. That's part of keeping you out of court. And obviously a very big thing, which is there are companies around the world who want to understand how to start adopting this technology, but don't know where. Because they've done it, they can advise on how to do it. And that's it. That's all I've got. So, in the chat, if you would, please, did you learn something? Was I entertaining? If I've done those two things, I can treat myself. I've written on my board for everything that I achieve, I get to go and treat myself. And this enables me to take my dog for a walk. Beautiful. There we go. Right, my dog is going for a walk after this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you. Indeed, you've achieved both enlightening for sure and entertaining as well. Very interesting to see the use cases, and I'm sure we'll discuss more about it later. But in the event of time, I would like to invite Quang now to share his perspective. Quang, please introduce yourself and what you're going to talk about.
Thanks for the introduction, Jugal, and fantastic presentations, both from Paul and from Greg. It's actually very exciting to see some of those foundational ideas that Paul was talking about and seeing them amplified and delivered by Greg so compellingly in his product. Today, it's my privilege to be able to share with you our journey at Octant AI and our offering. And what we're focused on is improving both portfolio and project level performance, but in a particular way. It's around providing early and accurate detection of financial distress. So what we're focused on is very much financial performance. By way of introduction to myself, so I've I've come from the industry, so I've spent 15 years in the planning and delivery of major projects in the commercial and banking, banking sector, as well as in the mining and oil and gas sectors. So this company came from my research at Oxford University, where I had the privilege of becoming an associate scholar, and where my research around AI and projects continues today. And Octant AI really emerged from not just the research, but also from what I experienced in my own career. And 2016, 2015 was when I started this, and it was a foundational year. Paul shared that's when AlphaGo beat Lee Sedol in that game of Go, which was a classic game, and that's what fired my imagination for what AI could potentially accomplish. So join me today. I'm delighted to really share with you about how Octant AI works, some practical use cases, and also some of the research that's gone into why we've focused on AI in the way that we have. And we'll start off by looking at what is portfolio capital management, because this is where Octant AI starts. And from the portfolio level, we can then drill down into specific projects to identify earlier and more accurately where financial distress is likely to occur. So portfolio capital management, in our experience, really has two major dimensions. So there's a significant finance management component, where a portfolio is comprised of typically lots of projects all running at once, and they all have different starting, finishing, and midpoints. And the finance management aspect of portfolio capital management is around getting funding and acquiring those funds, so acquiring capital to fund those projects, and also allocating that money to then invest in projects that are being delivered. So that's the finance management function. The performance and risk management function is really where Octant AI shines. And in that portfolio capital management function in organizations, Octant AI improves the planning, forecasting, and monitoring intervention function of capital portfolios. And what it does is it provides earlier and more accurate warning of when the portfolio is likely to have significant capital underruns or overruns. So that's when you have either too much money or too little money to fund your projects, or indeed when you're going to be running into financial distress on your your individual project levels. And we'll see what that looks like in a moment. So as an example of the kinds of portfolios that Octant has been applied to, this is an Australian portfolio. It's been anonymized, which was over $5 billion in total in value. There were about 17 major packages in there with an average value of 300 million. For those who are eagle-eyed, if you multiply that out, that isn't quite 5 billion, but the reason for that is because that's an average. So there are obviously some that are much larger than others. And this was occurring over the last sort of 10 years, within the last 10 years, I should say. And Octant AI was able to show that it could improve capital productivity in that portfolio by 4%. And what that means is Octant AI identified where there was significant amounts of excess cash in the portfolio. And the reason that's important is that that's money in the tens or sometimes even the hundreds of millions of dollars that could be used to fund distressed projects, or when we're talking about big capital projects that are important for society, it's getting new projects created so that you can fund new hospitals, new schools, new roads, new rail projects. So the ability to find where there's excess capital and then redeploy that elsewhere more effectively has a tremendous social benefit, and it's one that we're particularly proud of. But in order to do that, Octant AI improves real-time cost and time outcome performance at the individual project level. And we can show for this example that we improved cost accuracy in our predictions by 57%, and we provided about 30 to 40% earlier warning of project time overruns. And what that 30 to 40% means is it's 30 to 40% of the project duration. So in simple terms, if you have a 1 year long project, that means it's Octant's providing somewhere between 3.5 to 4.5 months, and that early warning, and that scales depending on the duration of the project. And so why is portfolio capital management important? Well, the research that I had the privilege to do at Oxford with my co-researcher, Dr. Paul Chapman at Said Business School, really underscored there were two root causes of project risk. And as you will see in a second, these two root causes are what makes forecasting project outturn performance so challenging. On the one hand is research from the scholars who advocate that delusion and deception are one of the root causes of project risk. And what we mean by that is that very often forecasts are undertaken in extreme conditions of uncertainty. So there are lots of things happening on the project. There are lots of technical factors that make prediction very difficult to be accurate in real time. And Jugal shared earlier about the PM doing lots of things once under complexity. Paul spoke about our flawed memories, our inconsistencies, and our imperfect judgment. And when project managers are often asked to make these complex decisions under uncertainty, we often encounter forecasts that are biased, whether they're optimistically or pessimistically biased, and that affects the accuracy of these forecasts. And the social and organizational factors that these decisions are made within compound the challenges of making accurate forecasts in real time. And the solution to this is that these behavioral scientists advocate is a method called taking the outside view. And the outside view is really a technique where we learn from past data. So that's a really important point. I'll come back to why that's important for artificial intelligence. But one of the solutions to this notion of being able to make decisions under uncertainty and the kinds of organizational pressures that create incentives to underplay how difficult projects are and overplay the benefits they realize is the outside view. And if you haven't already read his book, Professor Bent Flevier has just recently released a great book called How Big Things Get Done. It's apparently a New York Times bestseller. He was my professor at Oxford and continues to be a really strong supporter of Octant AI. And declaration here, he's also one of our shareholders as well. So his research has spanned decades though, and certainly that scholarship extends way before ourselves. So he's a very accomplished and well-known mega project scholar. One of the other factors that makes making predictions in real time in projects difficult is the root cause of risk that arise from complexity. And there's hard complexity, which is the reality that projects have lots of moving parts. It's hard to predict very far into the future with methods before artificial intelligence because of the long chains of causes and effects and their non-linearity and the tendency to behave in systems of systems. Along with that hard complexity is soft complexity. So projects are delivered in social environments where different laws, different expectations, and different ways people interpret reality and what's happening in a project make understanding what's really happening right now and where projects are going to perform in the future difficult to reconcile and to be able to produce accurate forecasts in real time. And so the solution to that, according to the research, is to have learning, flexibility, and adaptation. And so that ability to learn, be flexible, and adapt to real-time conditions is also another very important component of how artificial intelligence can play a role in improving real-time performance management. So both of these schools of research, the behavioral science research and the complexity science research, they're both advocating solutions, the outside view, learning, flexibility, and adaptation, that it turns out artificial intelligence are very, very well suited to. And so with Octant AI, which is our company and the product that we've built from that research, from our own experience, it acts like a project heart rate monitor for your department or your business. It lets you identify where your key risks are in real time according to key financial metrics such as cost, cash flow, revenue, and margin, and also time. It helps project leaders and portfolio leaders with earlier and more accurate warning of financial distress, and it leads to improved risk management both at the project level and at the portfolio level. And as you'll see later, we have some metrics there that show that Octant AI delivers real-world value. It improves capital productivity at the portfolio level by up to 10%. When you're talking about portfolios that are in the billions of dollars, a 10% release of free money is music to portfolio leaders' ears. And Octant can do that because we can show how it can identify where there's either too much or too little capital. It improves cost forecasting accuracy, and it can deliver cost savings up to about 3.3% of project value. So it was important for us to focus on how Octant can deliver financial value because, as Greg spoke about before, artificial intelligence must deliver value that people can put their hands on, so that you can show that there is a material return for the investment that we take. And so some of the clients that we've had are from the government and from finances, the World Bank, a number of both Australian and international governments, and also in the private sector. So some consultancies and also some tier one constructors internationally and national. And really, the point of showing you this is that my passion and my vision in my research was that Octant AI, what would become Octant AI, it ought to be generalizable. You ought to be able to use artificial intelligence for any project sector anywhere in the world. And we continue to be on that mission and journey to show that Octant AI in particular, but artificial intelligence in general, can deliver real world value, which is why it's so fantastic to see Nodes and Links presenting tonight, today, and also Paul Boudreau talking about those fundamentals of AI that you can see being applied in the real world, which is incredibly exciting. So our first case study is around how Octant AI provided active early warning of margin loss. And so this is a real project. Its duration, which you can see along the bottom axis here, this was a big project. It was about 1,000-day long project. And the forecast being made by the project managers, project management team was that they're predicting the risk of loss. And for the first 400 days on the project, there was no risk of loss. And then suddenly by around day 420, bang, up shoots the risk of loss to almost 100% chance of losing money on that project, which was very bad news for the senior leadership team. Now, with Octant AI, which is being shown here in green, these are all of the predictions that are being made every month around the likelihood of losing money on this project. And what's interesting is that unlike the project team, Octant was already flagging very early that there was a risk of losing margin on this project. In other words, actually losing real money. And each month it was making predictions. And by day 200, it identified that this project was going to exceed the project's risk appetite, which was about a 35% chance that the project would lose a margin. And that 200 days early warning this particular organization was able to price. So 200 days early warning has a price that you can quantify. And in this case, it was a large project. You think about how much consultancy time, design time, site construction time that could be saved by having those 200 extra days up your sleeve. So that's how we demonstrate the real world value of these financial distress predictions. And that 200 days is broadly in keeping with that metric we showed earlier around the sort of 30 to 40% earlier warning. The second case study is from a government department that we worked with, Queensland Transport and Main Roads. There's a QR code here that you can scan if you wanted to read to access the report. But what this demonstration is showing you is the department wanted to compare the accuracy of Octant AI's predictions around the total capital cost of the projects under delivery compared to how the department did it and how the department was conducting it. And the reason they wanted to understand the comparison was to identify where there was significant excess capital or significant underruns of capital being held in the portfolio. And what's happening here is that this chart shows you the actual total portfolio capital cost to complete. So as projects finish, the total amount of capital required drops in time. And the true capital cost is shown there in that black dotted line. And that red line shows what the department was estimating. And in this case, they were significantly overestimating how much capital they needed. Octant AI's predictions are shown in the green line. And as you can see, Octant's predictions are very close to that true capital cost to complete. And so that's an example of how Octant is predicting far more accurately than is currently possible in this department, at least, and there'll be other examples later, to be able to identify where there's extra capital in the portfolio. So that can be used to fund distressed projects or indeed to get new projects up so that this department can maximize the benefit of make every dollar count. And in fact, Octant in this case was about 96% accurate to the true capital cost to complete for the portfolio. And so they were able to liberate that money. It also provided 4 months early warning of cost and time overruns, cost and time underruns, and it also delivered about 21% improvement in at the project level in project cost forecasts and in project duration forecasts. This is showing you an example of, there are two graphs that I'm showing here. The graph on the right is probably the most important one. The department was on average over forecasting its total portfolio capital requirements by about 10.7%. So it was overestimating how much money it needed, whereas Octant's prediction error was only 1.4%. So in other words, Octant was far closer to the true capital cost to complete that was actually required. And you can see what that looks like in the chart on the left, where again, we're looking at the portfolio costs for all of the current projects running in real time over the course of the year. And the department was overestimating how much capital they needed compared to the black dotted line, which is the true cost. And Octant was predicting very close to that true capital cost to complete, which again optimizes the money that department has. So a very important business benefit. That wasn't just a one-off, however. What this chart's showing you is that earlier warning and high accuracy at predicting portfolio costs also extends not just to government departments. For example, we have a private contractor in the first chart here, and that's also about portfolio costs, but the difference this time is they tend to underestimate how much capital costs they need. And so what that means is they're constantly having to negotiate getting more capital from the business, usually their treasury function, and very often they're not optimizing what the appropriation terms, the lending terms are. There's also predictions of revenue through time as well, and cash flow as well. So Octant AI can generalize. So in other words, it doesn't just predict one thing, it predicts whatever the training data that you have. But we've focused on financial predictions for now. The third case study is around how you use Octant AI on at an individual project level. And this was a small civil project here in Australia, about $20 million. And you'll see how the synergistic combination of Octant AI with the expertise of the project managers allows the project team to transform the fortunes of this project, which was otherwise going to suffer some really big cost overruns. So at the portfolio level, Octant, so this is a specific version of Octant AI that we built for this business. It leveraged, in their case, Power BI, but Octant AI's true powers is that it is an engine. And so we can adapt that engine to whatever the situation is required from the customer. But in this case, this particular project has been identified as one that's got a high likelihood of cost overrun. And it's, in this case, being forecasted with a $3 million cost overrun. So that's, that's quite significant money for some of these projects, and certainly for this business. And so with that information, this is an example of a dashboard that shows the Octant AI project level predictions, as well as the analytical insights from the project team around specific cost centers or activities on the project. And early on, Octant AI detects cost overruns, and the project team uses their expertise to do deep dives. By month 6, it turns out that underground services is a new area of risk for focused attention. And so the site team works with the AI predictions to really focus on those areas that are experiencing those cost overruns. This action results in a turnaround from the AI. Instead of forecasting a cost overrun, it's now achieving budget. And by month 18, the project teams have done really well in conjunction with the AI predictions to turn around what was likely to be a 13% cost overrun to a 4.3% cost underrun. So they've dramatically turned this project around by having these predictive insights around, where the project's going to head, and then actively working on turning those fortunes around. And so Octant can be integrated into monthly portfolio and project reviews through a 6-step process. Now, this sequence is, in our experience, what our customers and clients have used, but that might not be exactly the same as yours, but you'll see the general outlines of what's typical here in industry. So the projects typically produce your monthly project reports, and Paul at the beginning showed some examples of what's included in those monthly reports. It's a safety issues, risks that have emerged, progress on site, any particular TQs, all those sorts of normal things are what's produced at the project level, and then they get collated up at the portfolio or departmental level. So it could be a PMO, it could be the general manager of the business, but there's a collating process. And as Greg from Nodes and Links sort of spoke about, that can be quite a long, drawn out and resource intensive process. Sometimes the project managers are also brought in for interviews as well, just so that they can talk about what their project status is like, and to offer areas of risk that might not have been identified in the project reports and so on. There's a review process, typically in the portfolio team, and very often also in conjunction with the project managers. And then there's a prioritization process. Which projects really need to be focused on. And where Octant AI is used is in that review and prioritization process. And what Octant AI offers there are insights around which projects to focus on so that both the portfolio teams and the project managers are able to recover errant performance and to bring projects back on track. And that's what that project engagement step is about. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and show you what Octant AI is like to use. So we've designed Octant AI as a very simple and intuitive product to use. And this is an example that you will have access to if you register on a QR code later. But basically, you'll see that you can download an Excel template that is easy to populate with data. And you'll see what that looks like in a second when I flash it up on screen in PowerPoint. And you drag and drop those templates in, and then Octant AI trains a custom private model just for your organization. And it's now trained a model. And what you can now do is upload a set of live projects. And because it's got a trained model, it'll start making predictions on those live projects so that you can view them at a portfolio level to identify, firstly, at a portfolio level, what the financial performance is like, and then drill down into identifying what specific projects or which projects are likely to be in distress. So in this case, this is a private sector example. So this is showing margin, revenue, and cost metrics at the portfolio level. And it's saying that the base forecasts are within the range of normal business performance. So it's a $3 million overall portfolio margin. Octant is predicting between 1.6 to $6.7 million. That's a P25 to P75. So that's giving you the range of accuracy. And it's because it's within that accuracy that base forecast is likely to be within usual business ranges. So margin and similarly revenue aren't the key concerns here. But where the main focus is cost. They're significantly underestimating project costs. And so at a portfolio level, we know that we can focus on costs. We also know that in the trend charts, costs are consistently underestimated. And by focusing on which projects are at the most risk of margin loss, the portfolio and project teams can then identify, in this case, a handful of projects that are at the highest risks of losing, in this case, margin. And we can see that for the Port Phillip Dam construction project, which we'll look at here, that has been identified as a high-risk project. There's some project synopsis information that would be rendered in real time otherwise, but the margin loss has trended up over time, and Octant has provided a 4-month early warning of margin distress there. So that's an example of how Octant is able to provide a real-time warning of financial distress early more accurately. And I'll just finish by showing what the kind of data that Octant AI requires, and it's really we've designed it to be as simple as possible. So we only need 30 projects that are representative of the portfolio that you're delivering. And in contrast to the big data approaches, we focus on beautiful data. And here we only need 14 features. And these are features, the date, the budget, forecast end dates, forecast final costs, contingencies, final revenue, final outturn costs, if you're in the public sector, or revenue or actual outturn cost to date, along with some basic financial metadata, all that's required for Octant AI. produce the kind of predictive models that you've seen. So in conclusion, Octant's like a project and portfolio heart rate monitor. It's come from research at Oxford University to provide earlier, more accurate warning of financial distress. And there is a QR code here if you wanted to point your camera phones at the screen so that you can register your interest if you wanted to have a free demo of the Octant AI product that you've seen. So I'm Cuong Quang. Thank you so much for the opportunity and privilege to be able to share with you all. It's such a wonderful audience, and really looking forward to the next sessions after this. Thank you. Back over to the session moderators. Thank you.
Thank you, Cuong. Sorry. Thank you. Great insights. Very interesting projects and use cases. Big numbers. So certainly a huge impact as well. And yeah, looking forward to the discussion. I think there's a lot of, we have got a lot of questions. So I would like to kind of take as many as we can. Now, thank you for all those who have asked those questions. So I think we have around 200 plus people, which is great. Thank you all for staying back. And now, so if you go to Slido, a lot of people have asked questions. So I want you to take a few minutes to vote some of those questions that you think are important and you would like to address. And I would like to now get Paul and Greg and Hari and Prakash to unmute their mics and just turn on their video as well before we get into the discussion. Hari reminded me that we should be closing by 25. So we roughly have 25 minutes for Q&A. So let's start. I would take a few of those questions that have come from, we have around currently 25 questions. So I'm not sure if we can take all 25. So what I'll do is I'll ask that question. We'll take one of them. I'll give a minute to each of you to respond to it. And then we go to the next question. So currently, I'll take the one which has the most vote from, the question is from Naveed. I think he left, but his question is that AI from a tool development standpoint, given the examples of Microsoft ChatGPT or consumer management standpoint, how can we leverage such tools? So like I think the question is, there are lots of tools that are available, right? So apart from, let's say, what Cuong you shared, Craig shared, and Paul, you also shared some examples. So a lot of tools seem to be coming. So how does an organization or a project manager decide on what tools to use for them? Paul, you want to go first?
Can I go first? Yeah. You know what? I'm a business guy, so for me, it gets back to business value. You have to have a business case. What's the problem on your project? Is there something that's happening on your? Are you always over budget? Are you always over schedule? Can you not manage risks? Really zone in on what it is that you need to improve in your project management methodology, and then from there, start the business case. What tools are available? And yes, it's a lot of work. You know, go ahead, get the demo from Octant, get the demo from resource allocation tools, get the demo from Nodes and Link. So look at all these tools that are available and say to yourself, is this going to resolve my problem? Right? So I think we need to take a business case perspective, and that's how we decide what tools to use.
Okay, thank you. Craig, you mentioned about from a business case standpoint in one of your slides, you shared about, let's say, obviously the objective of savings of 10 hours per person, and then you shared some costs. Now, what is the biggest challenge that you see putting together this business case?
What is the biggest challenge I see putting together the business case? To be honest, I'm gonna answer a little differently. Paul's totally right. This isn't new. This is the same rodeo. This is like 500 years ago. Ooh, do I buy a horse and cart or don't I? Like, you just figure out. There's 4 things you need to figure out. You need to figure out what the problem is. You need to figure out the cause of the problem. Then you then need to find a solution that fixes the cause. And it's as simple as that. AI is not that special. It's just another tool that we've got. And if AI is the right solution to the problem, great. If you're trying to force AI into a solution that it's not the best for, well, then that will show up on a business case. Like, to answer your question directly, like, what's the hardest part of the business case? It's just asking people, what problem are you actually trying to solve? If someone's trying to solve that their boss doesn't like them, okay, well, do you really think buying new tech is the solution to your boss not liking you, or is sitting down and having an honest conversation with them the solution to that? Whereas if someone's like, I don't have enough time, project reports are killing me, okay, that's more appropriate.
Yeah. So understanding the project challenge or the challenges that you have is very important to even start looking at what tools and what can you fix. Now, Quang, you want to share your perspective on this?
Yeah, absolutely. Great answers both from Paul and Greg. Look, I think forums like this are a wonderful initiative, and I really commend the moderators and the initiators of the PMI Singapore chapter to put on sessions like this. It's really been quite wonderful. I've learned a lot, even from what Paul and Greg have shared. So thanks, guys, and obviously the wonderful responses from the audience. Look, I think just learning about what's possible is great. Paul's provided some foundational things that the AI can do. Greg and myself, we've spoken about some specific use cases around how AI is creating real world value. So that gives you some ideas around what's possible. To actually make something happen, what we've found to be a practical thing is just to start small, go for the lowest hanging fruit. Very often you can quantify, for example, time saved, as Greg's done, with nodes and links, done an awesome job with that. Saving money, if in our case, we focus on that 3% cost saving, if you can demonstrate that again and again and again, your ROI on your little pilot is going to pay for itself, maybe in the first project you rescue. So, but start simple, start with results, and because what results give you then is a common language. Everyone understands benefits. No one understands data science. No, that's a hard journey to take people on. But when you can start saying, hey, I save money. Hey, I save time. Hey, I improve safety on my project. Hey, I reduce the amount of TQs I have to deal with. Hey, I've reduced the number of non-conformances. That gets the ears of every project professional.
Okay, thank you. I would now probably invite Prakash to share his perspective. Prakash, please introduce yourself before you start, because you have been involved, or you are involved in some very large projects, and we worked together on some very interesting projects as well. And the whole question on, okay, what is the right tool and all of that is still relevant. So what is your perspective on this?
Yeah. Hi, Jugal. Well, just a very quick introduction of myself. I think probably if the audience has come to the previous series of the MIIP webinars, they would have already been introduced to who I was. But Hari and me co-founded this special interest group way back in 2020, I guess, just prior to the start of COVID. And so we've had this series of webinars going on for 3 years now. And well, professionally, I've done several projects, engineer by training, prefabrication technology by specialization, and have moved from the building industry to infrastructure industry. And now I'm focusing very much on project management and trying to build project management capability to the community. That's what Hari shared right at the beginning. Now, going very quickly to address the point of the day, I think, well, Paul, Greg, and Cuong, and yourself have actually painted a very interesting picture of how the project management industry is actually transforming. Together with that, so the impetus to implement AI, that's what Paul has mentioned, should be more focused on how you use AI to solve the problem per se, rather than to force fit AI into the industry. But having said that, what would then become topmost in everybody's mind is, well, what is the problem that best suits the use of AI? Now, Cuong has given a very good example of how AI looks at prediction of, financial prediction, financial models, project also around time overruns. And Greg has shared how risk management and project controls can be managed using AI. But I guess what the project management professional needs to understand is, well, he's a project manager and he's going to make a recommendation to his client. What then would he have to prioritize? And so he needs to, well, in the course of his work, he can use AI within his own organization without actually surfacing this to the client in terms of reporting, in terms of assisting him with project controls. Or he could actually introduce it to the client and look at it from the entire project management office perspective, where the client incorporates AI into the entire development, into the entire program. So there are various areas where we can incorporate AI, and working with professionals and partners like Paul, Cuong, and Greg, there could be, what I would suggest is a project maturity plan. How do you actually integrate AI with different types of projects? So how suitable is the organization, for instance, to embrace AI from a project perspective? How suitable is the project able to take on some of these functions in different aspects of the project? So I guess there is scope then for the project manager to evaluate some of these, working with professionals. He's looking at transforming his role now from purely a project manager running a project to a project manager who's utilizing tools and recommending actions to the client. So there is a transformation going on right now on the role of the project manager, and that's something that project management professionals need to be aware of.
Very, very, very valid points. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think the tools and technology have an influence on the role and what we do and how we do. Now, I want to time the next question as a follow-up and probably go to Hari, where there is a question which says, now Paul and Greg and Cuong talked about, let's say, having a business case, trying to identify a problem. But then there's a question, okay, how do you influence, or what is a recommendation to influence key stakeholders in an organization or on a project? Now, Hari, you are one of the key stakeholders. You work on lot of large projects. So how would you like to be influenced, and how would you, let's say, approach or influencing your management in adopting some of these things?
See, first of all, the new technologies, I think, first of all, thanks for all the speakers here. So excellent information we all learned. Actually, applying the new technologies into the organization, it's not an easy thing. It should come from a top-down approach. and on a strategical level, because not many of the AI projects which is really successful. It's evolving, evolving stage, and we can't leave AI, that it can be taken care in next 5 years or something. The organization which is not taking care of advanced technologies, which we are seeing now, will be pushed behind. So there is some way to influence is basically have some consultants, have a high level concepts and proven consultants come on board, have a discussion, and that is one way to influence. Basically, there are a lot of theory talks going on, and even in MIIP, Jugal, we discussed this particular event, and we just postponed for something because we are looking for real-time practitioners to come on, to demonstrate something, and where really the practitioners and the people following project management do see some AI thing is real, So it's not only the talk, but something in action. So the real-time work will influence top management or the key stakeholders to accept, to adapt AI for key reasons like we can say about productivity, which is a key factor, and which influence on each and every decisions of what we make in a project. If higher the productivity, you will end up good results. So there are a lot of things behind on that circle. It's a short answer.
Yeah, thank you. No, thank you. Good insights, and certainly a need to start small and one step at a time. Now, I want to, considering the time, I want to take another question, and I'll expand that question a little further. So, and this is probably goes to Paul, Craig, and Quang, wherein the question is that for a new project or a new organization, if there's no database available, how do they get started? How much data is required to be collected to enable such AI functionality? Now, Paul, in your presentation, you mentioned that you don't need thousands, but some of them is fine. Now, I want to kind of extend this question, and not just from a database or data standpoint, but also kind of ask, what is the readiness that an organization needs to embark on this journey? So both questions. So what is the readiness that an organization needs to kind of start leveraging AI and these tools? And secondly, if they do not have anything, then what is the data? Let's say at least from a database standpoint, what is the minimum number? And Quang, you said start small. So I want to kind of address this question for the next 7-8 minutes. Paul, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'll go first. I'll try and be quick. So first of all, from the data side, I think we can thank Quang, who's done extremely good analysis on this. And he said 30 data sets. I've confirmed that as well. 30 to 50 data sets is sufficient to do a supervised learning prediction. So the other thing is you have two opportunities as a new organization. You have no data. Your first opportunity is find someone to collaborate with. Okay, so maybe if you're not in competition with a different organization. So I've worked with nonprofits, for example, nonprofit organizations, kennel clubs, dog clubs, things like that. And what they do is they collaborate with other nonprofits. So it's not really a competitive environment. So the first thing you can do is try and collaborate and share data with somebody else. The second opportunity, and this is an interesting one that I haven't seen vendors do yet, is when you go look at a tool that you're interested in purchasing and using in your organization, ask the vendor if they have a pre-populated database that you can use. Okay, in other words, the vendor may have worked in construction projects previously. The data is all anonymized, but they have data there. Now there's issues around being able to use that, but that's your two opportunities: collaborate or ask the vendors to give it to you. In terms of readiness, I think you need to understand the fundamentals, and we've talked about it. Understand what these tools are, how they work, understand statistics, because here's the issue. There was a survey done for organizations in Europe on are they using AI in their organization or not? And what they discovered is that 40% of the organizations that said they were using AI actually had no AI. They just didn't even realize what AI was. So you have to understand the fundamentals as part of the readiness. so that, when you're talking to vendors, you understand and you can understand what they're trying to do. That's it.
Perfect. Thank you. Greg.
So Paul's right. It's about 30 to 50 to start. But he's also right on the second point. As vendors, we've got hundreds of thousands of data sets that customers have just willingly given us and said, feel free to share them around. So my answer when I talk to different customers is one. Give us one and we can start. But the second thing is also, what exactly are you trying to do? Because a machine learning model and a large language model and a natural language processing model all do kind of different. People group them all into the same thing and think they're all the same thing. They're not. So if you want AI to draft a project report, the answer is 0. Why? Because there's enough project reports in the world that we can train data on. If you're wanting to predict schedules, the answer is 1 to start with, because there's enough schedules in the world to start doing that. Now, there's a question exactly what Paul said, which is the specificity. So will it be perfectly specific to your context? No. But then that's where you get the 30 to 50 in your own organization that starts to develop that level of specificity over time. And in terms of the second point, which is the adoption, actually, I think Cuong made a fantastic point here, which is you just start really small. And it's what's the smallest problem that I can solve today? And we're not talking here about let's solve a problem in 6 months. It's what can you solve for me by Monday? On Monday, I'm going to present whatever we've done together and shown success. Show me we can do something. And it can be as simple as that. And in doing that, what you do is you flesh out all the questions that the organization is going to be asking, all of the data questions, the security questions, the workflow management questions, the general policy questions, all of this kind of stuff. And it actually becomes quite a fun process. I'll leave over to Cuong.
Interesting to kind of have that ambition to do certain thing and show in 2-3 days, but I think that is the way to go.
Yeah.
Because
I don't allow my data scientists to do any project where they can't show me a tangible result within 2 days.
Perfect.
Show me a machine learning model that can predict project accuracy beyond this within 2 days, or I'm not giving you funding to do it. Okay.
Cool. Good approach. Good approach. Yeah. Quang, please.
Just lastly, to bring together both aspects, give your user an experience. Give them the encouragement to go and take their experience and build on it. And so what that means is, if it means that I can use my pre-trained data, a pre-trained model, to give the user that experience to say, hey, wow, this is what's possible, then great, start there. Right? If it means just using just one project, it's not super accurate, give them an experience. And that also relates to organizational readiness. If the organization can also see what the experience of using the AI is like, it gives them more incentive to go collect those 30 projects to build that more highly refined model. So I would say, go for value with a quick experience where people can experience the value as soon as possible. And that brings together both Paul's and Greg's excellent answers.
Perfect. Good. Now we have 2 minutes. We can take 2 more minutes, but I want 1 minute response from each of you on what is the likely impact on the role of project manager? How is the role of project manager likely to change if we embrace all of these new developments and enhancements? So what would the project manager of, let's say, 2025 look like? What he or she would be doing on a daily basis?
Okay, I'll start. The simple things are going to be automated. So creating a status report, organizing meetings, things like that. We already know RPA, robotic process automation, is going to take care of that. The more complicated aspects, we're going to see project managers using AI tools to help them make the project more successful.
Okay. So you said day-to-day task will be handled by AI, and the more complex will be done by humans.
Well, there'll be a collaboration of using AI tools and project manager to make better decisions.
Yeah. Hari.
Yes, Jugal. So basically, my view is that the project managers the focus have to change to more value-driven kind of items and living behind the administrative kind of things to the AI actually. So that is one way, and the project manager has got more tasks on hand, but always we know that it's more of juggling of a lot of things. So this AI powered tools and mechanism will definitely help project manager, not only the virtual assistant, but a lot of ways that aid project manager to make proper decisions. So the decision making is driven by AI, but the decisions are made by the project managers, that we cannot leave it to the machine to decide, because the project manager has a responsibility on that. And
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Prakash, 30-second response from you.
Very quickly summarizing what both of them said. Yes, the mundane tasks, the day-to-day tasks, a lot of reporting work, all that will be automated. But what won't change from the near future, but perhaps it will change in the more distant future, are the very fundamentals of how projects are run. Contract management, the negotiation with the contractors, the work on the ground. Things are already changing on areas like safety management, even risk management will change, but these take more time to simulate on the ground. So that's my quick take on that.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Quang.
More productive, more skilled, and better versions of themselves.
Okay. Very, very, very brief and crisp. Thank you. Greg?
I'll say something quite pointed. Bad project managers will be fired. Good project managers will earn more money. And they'll earn more money because the average value of the tasks that they do will be significantly higher. And the reason why bad project managers will be fired is because bad project managers will only do low value activities, which can be automated. And I can automate all of those away with a machine. So if you've got very good project managers that know how to manage risk and change and contracts and people and stakeholders, they will be very rare. So demand and supply. I'm already seeing this. I'm already seeing wages topping $1 million a year in this field.
Yeah, a valid point. Yeah, I think it's the project manager will probably need to focus more on those soft skills to be a good project manager, and which in turn these AI and all these tools are something to support and augment in their daily work. Obviously, so all of you who have joined here obviously have an ambition to be a good project manager and be able to earn more. And I'm hoping we can, because we are running out of time, we won't be able to address all those questions, but we, as Hari mentioned, we'll have one more version of this in few weeks or fairly soon, and we'll take this forward and take to the next step. So please let your questions come in, and look forward to connecting with you on LinkedIn or otherwise. And so from my perspective, it was a great conversation. Thank you, Paul, Greg, Cuong, for your excellent presentations and pitch. Really appreciate you sharing your insight and experience and expertise. I think we can go on and on about this for next few hours and few days, and we still won't be done with it. But the bottom line is, all of us need to get started. Start somewhere, learn by doing things, and take small step at a time. Share with your colleagues and your teams, and get started with that. So thank you all for joining in, and I'll give it back to Hari to close finally.
Thanks, Jugal. And first of all, a big thanks to all the speakers here. And we learned a lot of new things today, no doubt about it. And it's a must to learn, like AI powered tools are enabling project managers to automate repetitive tasks. That's what we learned today, and more of analyzing the data and gain valuable insights that will make project managers making decisions properly. So a lot of learnings. Thanks again. And we will have another session coming up in September, and we will get more practitioners to come and with case studies and show something, a real-time case study, so that we understand, and probably we can take it from this level to whoever got more interest. Do connect with us. Speakers or links are available. You can able to connect and get connected further. And we do have a LinkedIn portal which you can connect and start building your network. And we have a knowledge sharing center in our website. I believe it's there in the chat, and feel free to see the recording, and also the slides will be given to all of you. With that note, we have 1 minute more. I think it's 9:30 now. Thanks for your time, and have a great day. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, before we
Thank
take
you.
off,
Thanks,
if
everyone.
you guys are available to turn on your camera, I'd like to take a photo of everyone.
Okay, great. Good idea.
So give it a second here. 3, 2, 1. Okay, it'll take me a couple seconds. A lot of people here. So yeah, I go through a few slides here. Next.
We don't need to say cheese or something like that, right?
Just keep smiling here. Just I'm trying to go faster. Need some AI tools to do screenshots here for me. Yeah, halfway there. 2 more pages here. All those happy people.
Good.
And 1 more here. And thank you, everyone. So,
Thank you.
have
Thank
a
you.
great
Thank
evening,
you all for
everyone.
joining.
Take care.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Guys.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.